The Rosicrucian Path is the journey of the mystic. Few souls brave it at any single time. Yet it is this internal voyage that has rewarded many of our greatest minds with the ability to enrich the world. But it is a pilgrimage each individual must travel in their own time, for it reveals the path of knowing. It transcends time and space. This path of the Rosicrucian reveals higher truths for personal evolution. You are invited to witness its sacred history. There are strong connections with Kabbalah in Rosicrucianism and Martinism, and Kabbalah remains an important aspect of the teachings of the traditional Martinus Order. Kabbalah can be difficult and confusing. Different books say different things. Any two books on Kabbalah may address completely different topics, or they may provide conflicting definitions and interpretations of the same material. In addition, authors use different English spellings for the same Hebrew terms. So what is Kabbalah?
There are several different traditions that refer to themselves as Kabbalah, and within each of this there are different practices and techniques. First, the term Kabbalah refers to the esoteric or mystical aspect of Judaism. During the European Renaissance, concepts and methods from Jewish Kabbalah were adopted by some Christian scholars and integrated into their Christian theology, giving rise to what is called Christian Kabbalah. Since then, there have arisen paths that are associated with Hermetic Kabbalah and New Age Kabbalah, which is more a way of applying and understanding Kabbalah in a non-religious context today.
Within each of the various traditions, there are several types of activities. For example, theoretical or theosophical Kabbalah includes a system of metaphysics and methods of deriving esoteric interpretations of the Holy Scriptures. Kabbalists also use a variety of meditative techniques aimed at attaining higher states of consciousness, exploring the spiritual realm, encountering the divine, and receiving new spiritual insights. This is referred to by terms like meditative Kabbalah, prophetic Kabbalah, or mystical Kabbalah. The term practical Kabbalah refers to theurgy and magic, attempting to influence the divine realm and produce practical effects in the material world. The Sefer Yetzirah, also known as the Book of Formation, is often considered the oldest Kabbalistic text, whose first date of appearance is unknown and whose oral teachings may date from before the 1st century of the Common Era. It described in detail how God used the letters of the Hebrew alphabet to create everything in the universe. When properly interpreted, it can also be read as a meditation manual that describes a number of meditation techniques using the Hebrew letters. So ancient is this book that its origins are no longer accessible to historians. Traditionally attributed to the biblical patriarch Abraham, some scholars date it to around the 2nd or 3rd century of the Common Era. There is some evidence that these exercises were meant to strengthen the initiate's concentration and were particularly helpful in the development of telekinetic and telepathic powers. It was with these powers that one would then be able to perform feats that outwardly appeared to be magical. This is supported by the Talmudic references, which appear to compare the use of the Sefer Yetzirah to a kind of white magic. The legend of the lost word, the idea that there is a key to creation from which all reality sprang forth, is an idea that is at least several thousand years old. The first reference to a teleological or mental cause of creation and the relating of it to the spoken word goes back to the Memphite theology of Egypt, memorialized in stone around the 8th century before the Common Era, and whose origin is much older, perhaps even in the Old Kingdom, although other scholars suggest a New Kingdom origin. The chief Memphite deity was Ptah. At first, the priests of the Memphite mystery school proclaimed that Ptah was the patron god of the artisans and craftspeople of Egypt, but centuries later, these priests developed a more profound metaphysical conception with respect to Ptah. He became the grandest artisan, the creator of the universe, who did so with nothing more than thought becoming word and manifesting as physical reality. We find a similar idea in the Christian notion that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Is it possible that this New Testament idea was inherited from the much older view of Ptah, the Creator? Many occultists living in Paris in the late 19th century were members of the Theosophical Society. However, some of them increasingly felt disenfranchised by its excessively Eastern teachings. Among them were Gerard Oncos, better known as Pappus. As a student of medicine, he had the opportunity to work with Dr. Jules Louis, who had done some research in hypnosis in Paris. It was there that he met Augustin Chaboseau, with whom he quickly established the Martinus Order, since both were part of the initiatic chain going back to the unknown philosopher Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin. The Martinus Order was founded to perpetuate his teachings. The ancient order of the Rose-Croix in Toulouse, being on the point of going dormant, made the decision to restore it by consolidating it on a new foundation. To perpetuate the Rosicrucian tradition as well and to connect it with Martinism, Pappus, Josephin Peladon, and others formed the Kabbalistic Order of the Rose-Croix, a fraternal organization which would be open to Martinus, who had completed the initiatory path. Sar Peladon was connected with the Rosicrucians of Toulouse, the Rosicrucians who would later initiate H. Spencer Lewis into the order in 1909. This Parisian order was directed by a Supreme Council of 12 members, of whom 6 remained unknown, their role consisting of rebuilding the organization if it were to be dissolved for any reason whatsoever. As with many mystery school traditions, the order itself was structured around a hierarchy of 3 degrees that could only be acquired by examination: a Bachelor of Kabbalah, Master of Kabbalah, Doctor of Kabbalah. Entry into the order was reserved only to Martinists that had achieved the SI degree. As word spread of the order, it was not long before other occultists approached them to join. But 2 separate factions were created in 1891, when the preference for organizational structure became a point of contention. The organizer Pappus and the artist Peladon eventually went their separate ways. Pappus wrote that the Kabbalah was divided into 2 parts, the theoretical and the practical, covering such topics as traditions on the sacred mystery of God and the divine, spiritual creation and the fall of the angels, the origin of chaos, matter in the 6 days of creation, and the creation of the visible humanity, our fall, and the divine ways leading to our reinstatement. Therefore, the traditional Martinus order still studies these topics, as well as following the practical way of the heart of Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin. As Dr. Daniel Matt, a leading student of Kabbalah, writes in the Rosicrucian Digest, "We humans like to think of ourselves as the pinnacle of creation, and it is true that we are the most complicated things in the known universe. While the Big Bang is the most widely accepted theory, science has no consensus on the ultimate origin. Some theories espouse a well-defined beginning. Others, like Stephen Hawking, do not. But both suggest a radically new reading of Genesis. If God spoke the world into being, the divine language is energy, the alphabet, elementary particles, God's grammar, the laws of nature. Many scientists have sensed a spiritual dimension in the search for these laws. For Einstein, discerning the laws of nature was a way to discover how God thinks. But does the universe have a purpose? Is there meaning to our existence? Why choose to live ethically? One theory for creation, known as eternal inflation, was developed by Andre Lind. The word Kabbalah means received or received tradition. This idea portrays a universe that, by continually reproducing itself, attains immortality. Our universe is just one of countless baby universes, one of countless inflating, self-reproducing balls or bubbles, each with differing conditions and laws of nature. In modern times, being religious means, in the words of a contemporary physicist, to have an intuitive feeling of the unity of the cosmos. This oneness is grounded in scientific fact. We are made of the same stuff as all of creation. Everything that is, was, or will be started off as one infinitesimal point of energy, the cosmic seed. As we can see from these reflections, like the physicist, the mystic too is fascinated by the intimate relation of matter and energy. The key idea to retain from these teachings is that ultimately, the world is not separate from God or the divine, because this divine oneness energy is hidden within all forms of being. If it were not concealed, there could not be individual existence. Everything would dissolve back into oneness or nothingness. So, it is clear that the divine is not a separate being somewhere in another plane of existence outside of space and time. The divine is actually here in all things. And the key realization many work toward is the understanding and practical application of the idea that because the divine is in everything, we can serve the divine through everything we do. To be holy is to do what must be done next.